what are the Republicans really most interested in right now? They're certainly not interested in the Constitution or in Libya, because the Constitution is pretty explicit. Section 1, Article I don't have, where'd my Constitution go? Whatever it is, I don't have it in front of me. But the Constitution very clearly lays out that only Congress has the right, then power, to declare war. Go back and read the Federalist Papers. You go back and read the notes on the Constitution from James Madison. Read any of the commentaries by particularly Jefferson, Madison, and even Franklin commented on it. John Jay, George Mason, the whole bunch of them, the founders of this country, they were clear that they did not want a president who was an emperor, that they did not want the president to have the power to command the military into any kind of way. Now, he is the commander-in-chief of the military, but to declare war on behalf of the nation, no. That power is explicitly excluded from the list of powers given to the president and is explicitly given to the United States Congress. So we've known for a couple of weeks now that this democracy, this pro-democracy movement, or whatever you want to call it, this uprising, this civil war has been going on in Libya. And during those 2 weeks, according to the Constitution, and, you know, last night I had a conversation with Ron Paul about this. We've talked with Dennis Kucinich about it. We've talked with a whole variety of people, actually. We talked with John Nichols about it last night, in fact. And the bottom line is really, really simple. Before the United States, even with UN authorization, before we go into a foreign country and commence military activity, that is war, killing people. War is the legalized murder of other people. And before we begin that process, it has to be authorized by the United States House of Representatives and Senate. It has to be. It's right there in the Constitution. And so for the last 2 weeks, we've known this for 2 weeks, and during those 2 weeks, what did the House of Representatives do? Well, let's see. They debated whether or not they should delete $5 million worth of annual funding from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to give to NPR. $5 million. Now, keep that number in your head for a minute as you consider that yesterday we dropped 100 cruise missiles on Libya at the cost of $1 million apiece, which is $100 million. So, you know, they did not exercise their own oversight responsibility over $100 million worth of one-day military activity because they were obsessed with spending several days on cutting $5 million out of NPR. And you're telling me that these guys give a rat's patootie about the Constitution or about the fate and future of this country? We may well be stepping into not a democracy movement like in Egypt, but a civil war. I mean, there's a bunch of bad actors in Libya who are protesting Gaddafi, as well as some good actors. How do we know which is which? Who are we supporting? Where are we going with this? I am not saying that right on its surface, we never should have done this. I'm not saying that. I honestly don't know, because I never heard the debate. Now, in the United Kingdom, before they decided to send the first bomb into Libya, they had a debate in their parliament. And they had a vote, and it was like something like 190 to 111 or whatever it was, but it was a vote, and they voted to participate. Based on expert testimony, based on consideration of all the variables, based on assurances from the equivalent of a defense secretary that, you know, what the goals were and how long they'd be involved. We didn't. It seems that ever since Ronald Reagan declared war on Grenada, because we had a bunch of medical students who were just fine, thank you very much, studying medicine, but oh my God, the president of the country, Maurice Bishop, has decided that he's a communist, or at least he's a socialist, and he's going to be friends with, of all people, Fidel Castro. We got to get in there tomorrow. This is going to become a training ground for communists. I don't recall a declaration of war. In Vietnam. Well, you know, the South, they're fighting for freedom and independence. The North, they're aligned with the Chinese communists. Okay, if we don't stop them there, then they'll take over Laos and then Cambodia and then Thailand and then Taiwan and then Japan. And pretty soon they'll be at the west coast of the United States, maybe coming across the Bering Strait. Who knows? Maybe Russia will give them permission to go across the Bering Strait and take Alaska. And the next thing you know, Sarah Palin is going to be in the Politburo. I mean, actually, she was a little kid then. We've got to stop the Vietnamese communists. And on it goes. It's like every year it's a new war. And, you know, 2 days ago, there was a jirga, a loya jirga. Now, for those of you who don't know what a loya jirga is, for people who live tribally, I realize most Americans think the last people who live tribally are either in the jungles of the Amazon or they're the remnants of Native American society who are trying to hang on to their traditional way of life. But in fact, much and arguably most, at least in terms of landmass, of Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, Tunisia. I don't know about Egypt so much. I've traveled around Egypt. It seems pretty modernized. But much, if not most of these other countries live tribally. And so they've got tribes and they've, you know, genetic lineages and alliances and enemies that have been forged over hundreds, in some cases thousands of years. And what a loya jirga is when all of the tribal elders who spent their entire lives reaching that point and are recognized by their tribe as being literally the wise elders, when they get together for an annual meeting, like the Iroquois Confederacy used to do, to debate and make decisions about, you know, going forward, what the future of these individual tribes is going to be and whether or not they're going to have alliances and about what topics and those kind of things. And so there's this loya jirga going on in Waziristan, and it's tribal elders from a whole bunch of communities, the most respected people of these communities. And in some cases, they brought their family or they'd bring some of their children to see what was going on, particularly some of their sons who might someday end up in their own role. What do? By accident, an invisible drone in the sky dropped a bomb on them and killed them. The BBC reported. I read this on my BBC iPhone app. Several of these guys issued a release saying, "We may wait 100 years, but we will not forget." And they're dead serious. And so now we're stepping into the middle of the civil war in Libya with not any debate in the U.S. Congress because John Boehner thought it was more important to debate defunding NPR and Planned Parenthood than whether or not we should go to war. This is insane.